Hi friends. So before I say anything, I'm sorry that the painting, or rather the mass-produced piece of artwork from IKEA that is behind me is not centered in the frame. It is not centered on the wall and I'd have to move my table. I have feelings on it and it's a thing. I'm sorry. I didn't pick it out, I didn't hang it. So I want to share with you the books I'm reading, or the books that I want to read, my to-be-read list for spring. All of them, in one way, however, are here because they meet my 2019 reading goal requirements. I'm just gonna get straight into it and just share a tiny bit about them, and you can let me know your thoughts if you read any of these, or if you think that, you know, there's a chance that I won't get to all of them, so if there are any that you think I really should make sure that I read, please let me know down below. If you haven't watched my 2019 goals video, then you might not understand exactly what I'm talking about when I come to some of these categories, but it probably wouldn't be that hard to follow anyway. So I have a list of books that I'm embarrassed I haven't read yet, and for my spring TBR, I have 3 books that I have chosen from that list that is on this TBR. Probably should have chosen more than that. The first one is Tess of the D'Urbervilles by Thomas Hardy. I'm actually probably like 50 pages into this already, and I'm going on a trip tomorrow, and I have this one on my Fire, my Amazon Fire, so I'm gonna make sure that I get some reading done of this book. So far I'm really liking it. I don't feel like I could explain much of what it's about because, like I said, I've only read 50 pages, and before picking it up, I'd only heard good things about it, but didn't really have a good idea of what it was about. We're following a girl named Tess, and her family is not very well off, but is trying to seize an opportunity through a family relation to climb the social ladder. That's all I really know so far, but I think so far it's really promising. The second book, which is sourced from my books I'm embarrassed I haven't read yet, is The Hobbit by JRR Tolkien, of course. I've tried to read The Hobbit twice before, and both times I was involuntarily stopped from finishing the book. So it's not that I don't want to finish it, but I just feel like I've set a unfortunate precedent for myself, so I actually really want to like buckle down and finish this one. And yeah, I'm excited to get to it. I think it might be my first fantasy of this year. The third book on this list, also from my list of books I'm embarrassed I haven't read yet, is Alice in Wonderland by Lewis Carroll. Nope, yeah, Lewis Carroll. I am really excited to get to this one, and it definitely feels like a spring book. Everyone knows what it's about. It's fairly short. I'm excited to get to this one and see what all the hype is about. The next category of books on my list are sourced from books that I own. I have a goal this year to read every book that I own that I have not read yet, every unread book I own. The first one, which I want to read, is, let's see, The Judgment of Paris by Ross King. I started this book back in December. If anyone was watching those videos, I was reading it in December, and I got like halfway through, actually not even quite halfway through. I got to here, I was reading it on a trip, and I just wasn't feeling in the nonfiction mood, so I set it down, and I got home and I set it somewhere, and I legitimately just forgot about it. So I've come across it again and realized I really want to, like, I want to finish this book. I was really liking it. Oh, what's it about? It's about like everything that was happening in art during the, you know, just before the Impressionist era. It's sort of a pre-Impressionist era. We're mostly talking about Manet, a lot of the politics of the Academy. It takes place in Paris, if you didn't catch that from the name. I'm really liking it. It is a nonfiction. I love the context that it's giving for sort of the social and political reasons that art had a really revolutionary moment at this time. So hopefully I'll finish that and I can share with you a lot more of what that's about very soon. I really like it, but it's a little bit thick. Like I have a hard time reading for a really extended period of time. So I just need to give myself little portions and get a little bit every day on that one. This is another book that I own that I want to finish or to read this spring, Nothing to Envy by Barbara Demick. This is about life in North Korea. I ended up with this book and it sounds really fascinating, but I've had it for like a year and I haven't gotten around to reading it. I want to read this. It just doesn't feel like a summer feel, so I want to make sure I read it now before it starts to get warmer. That sounds like a weird thing to say, but that's sort of how I'm feeling about that one. That one's another nonfiction. The next one, this one is also really more of a winter read, but I ran out of time in winter, so I'm just gonna slip it in probably right at the beginning, you know, try and read this really, really soon. And this is The Ice Palace by Tarjei Vesaas. I have no idea if that's really how you say his name. I think he's Norwegian, or else, yeah, he's Norwegian. So I know this is like a Norwegian classic. I picked this one up in December and meant to read it while I was in London. I never got around to it. So now I have it and I want to make sure I finish it very soon. I'll probably read this one like as soon as I get back from my trip in like a week and a half. And the last one, The Feminine Mystique by Friedan. And I don't own this book, but a friend lent it to me like more than a year ago and I have tried to return it to her. But I also haven't finished reading it. And so at this point, I've had it so long that I feel like it's really inappropriate that I have not finished reading it, but have still had it. So, you know, I was going to just return it to her, but now it's been too long. I feel like I really need to read it. I really want to read this book. I know I started it. I can't remember how far I got. I should probably start over. I think I got at least 100 pages into it and I was really, really liking it. Super excited to read this one. But also, like The Judgment of Paris, one that is like really thick nonfiction, and I'm gonna just need to make sure that I push myself to read it. The next category, and the last one, is encapsulating my 2018 goal to read books that I'm excited about. I know that sounds like maybe a dumb goal, because shouldn't you just like always be reading the books you're excited about? But I oftentimes get excited about a book and then I put it like on my list, and then I continue to read the books that are just accessible to me or like available at the library, rather than trying to make sure I like find the book that I'm actually excited about reading. So the first book under this category is The War I Finally Won by Kimberly Brubaker Bradley. This is the second book in the War That Saved My Life series, or like it's a second to that book. The War That Saved My Life is the first book that I read in 2019 and I adored it. It's a middle grade book. I reviewed it in my January wrap-up, I'm sure. The first half of my January wrap-up, if you're interested in hearing about that. I think I'm really gonna like it, so I'm very excited to read this one. The next book on this list is called The Secret Diary of Hendrik Groen, 83 and a fourth years old. This is a book that I hadn't really heard about until very recently, but it's quite a popular book. I had a friend recommend it. She really raved about it online, and it has piqued my interest. The description says it's a lot like Frederick Backman's A Man Called Ove, which I really liked. The next book is called The Shortest Way Home, One Mayor's Challenge and a Model for America's Future by Pete Buttigieg. So if you're not familiar, Pete Buttigieg is a 2020 presidential candidate, and I had not really heard of him till like a week ago, but he has suddenly really popped up on my radar. So I want to read his book and find out more of what he's about, and it feels like I should do it right now. This book came out like only a few months ago as well. He's really gaining a lot of popularity, so I'm gonna get it from the library before, if potentially he becomes really popular, then I'll beat the crowd to that. Yeah, so I'm really interested. You can Google him if you want. He just feels like a really authentic person. The last book is actually a bit of a cheat because I don't have one picked out. I just want to have a slot on this TBR spring TBR that is reserved for a book about art. I know that I'm already reading The Judgment of Paris, but I have a long list of books on my Goodreads TBR on a shelf called Art Books, and I haven't gotten around to reading them as quickly as I would like to, in part because the vast majority of them are not available in my local libraries. So I haven't specified a specific one because I want to do more research and see if maybe I've overlooked and one of them is locally available, or else I can request it through interlibrary loan, or else do a little bit more research so that I'm really confident that I'm picking one that I will like and then just buy it. I'm really excited to tackle this spring TBR. I'm really hoping that I can read all of these books and check in with you and let you guys all know that I rocked it and read all of these books. If any of these are of particular interest to you, or that you have read them and would highly recommend them, or think that I should bump them down in my priority, you can let me know down below. Thank you for watching, and I will see you all in a future video. Thank you, bye!